Welcome to EJH Bridge Cars, and today we're going to assemble the flywheel and the clutch, and we're going to bolt the transmission up to the back of the engine. So let's get started. So this just goes in like this, and it's just pushes in. It's not very it takes about an ounce of or a pound of pressure to push it in. But it's not a press fit or anything else like that. If you're having to drive it in there, you got something wrong. You had dirt in there, or you got the wrong pile of bushing or something. Anyway, so let's get the flywheel installed. So if you'll look, this flywheel has an arrow on it here. And this lines up at top dead center with this small mark. I don't know if you can really see it. It's right there at the end of my finger. There's a mark in the casting, so that's top dead center. So you want to make sure you get the flywheel in the correct orientation. You'll notice these are the 4 holes, and there's 2 dowel pin holes, which are at 90 degrees to each other. There's 2 dowel pin holes in the crank, but they're 180 degrees out, so you only use one. This one was not removed, so this is the one that was there. So this has got to go with that to the top. So we tap the flywheel on. Here's our mark. It actually lines up with this bolt. What I thought was the mark was actually the casting seam. So that's lined up with this bolt. And if you look, the hole on that pulley is lined up with the marker. So that's top dead center. And I put a screwdriver in the hole, and the piston feels like it's at the top. So anyway, so that's square, and then that's in there. As you see, that will not pull through that hole, even though it looks like it should. It doesn't. So we've got 4 bolts, and they have locking tabs. So they got new locking tabs, and of course we're going to Loctite this anyway. But these critical connections, I really like using these. A lot of people think it's just a bunch of waste, but what the heck? I already got them. Might as well use them. So let's put these. A little bit of blue Loctite. Let's go right in like that. More Loctite. Run these in. And then they're supposed to torque down to 42 to 46 pounds, so we'll just set them at 45 and call it good. Pretty tight, so there's not really all that much torque on these either, so no problems with the flywheel turning. There we go, 45 pounds. And all you see they came from the factory with the one edge raised up a little bit, so that makes life easier. There we go. And that should be good. Oh, next we'll put the clutch disc on, and this one says flywheel side. And you can see the side with the protrusions is out. And of course I have an alignment tool here also. So that goes in there. And one thing, if you notice, this thing always has just a tiny bit of slack. So before we tighten up the cover, I was testing to make sure the bolts fit. Before we tighten up the cover, we'll lift it up just a hair to try to get it just as centered as possible, because it's not so bad here, but when this thing's in the car, it's really tough to get the transmission back on, particularly if you got an overdrive. So there's a pair of dowels here, which we reinstalled because they took them out when they turned this flywheel, clean up the surface. And to be honest, I think these flywheels are 42 pounds, so losing a little bit of weight, not really going to hurt anything. These are 5/16 coarse, and I'm using grade 8. These normally would have had a British fastener, which is kind of grade 7, from the numbers, but obviously can't buy that, so I would prefer to use the proper English fastener, but when I got this car, the clutch was already off and these bolts were long gone. And I've got these grade 8s, they're all the right size, the right length, and nice and clean. So I'm going to go ahead and use them. I probably, if I went digging through, my box of spares, I probably have enough correct bolts, but I can't really see going to that much trouble. Not like anybody except for me and all of you guys are ever going to know these aren't the right ones, so don't tell the concours judges, huh? Alright, so you kind of feel what the range is, and we'll just about half that. And you want to do these sort of a modified star pattern, which means 3 and 3. Go. That's all of them snug. And then the book calls for 20 foot-pounds on this thing, which is not really all that much. Probably just about what this thing will put out. So I'm going to get my torque wrench out and check that. I didn't even install that power wrench out, and they're right there. They're moving like, well, that one a bit more. Most of them are moving just like 10 degrees and they're clicking. So after I've gone on the star pattern, when I'm going back just to check to make sure I didn't miss any, I kind of like to go just in a circle because it's easier not to get confused. It's not so bad on this, but some heads and stuff like that, they got, goofy head patterns, like some of the, I think it was the Buick 215 V8, the aluminum one that Rover makes as well. They have like 10 bolts in each head because there's 2 extra ones, and blah, blah, blah. So they have a funny pattern. So anyway, there's my alignment tool, and there's a good sign. It's just sliding in and out of there. I'm going to try and be lazy and leave the transmission on top of the tool bench and just bring the motor to it. See, I've added, this always has 3 studs up here. And when you're doing this in a car, I saw a trick a long time ago. This is a coarse thread in the block, but they took a 5/16 course that was really long and cut the head off and put it up here so that it would engage with the bell housing long before the input shaft started going into the clutch. And it makes it way, way easier to put it in the car, because in the car, you always seem to be coming in like this. So to get that lined up, gets it lined up left and right, up and down, and it's all good. So anyway, let's pull this a little bit closer and see how we look. And we're just a little high. So I was having a little trouble lining it up. So I took my own advice and I put a long stud in to line it up, put it in 4th gear, put it together some, turn the, well, you can't see, but I turned the tail shaft a little bit while I was giving it a big bear hug, and look at that, it's pulling together. Oh, see? So now I can just put a couple of nuts on here and run that in, and as long as they go easy, we're all set. I tell you, this long bolt thing really makes life a lot easier. But when I was further apart, to get it lined up, I just use my fingers to see if the gaps are the same all the way around, so I really know that the transmission and the back plate are square, and that makes a big difference. I go ahead and bolt that up. That should pretty much do it for today. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and we will see you on the next one.